obviously we can all have our remarks. I'm actually trying to get back to what we were talking about, which is what I want to ask you.
We're just going to add something quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles. Hit it, brother.
See, all this time has passed and nobody has acknowledged the undisputed queen of Clubhouse, Queen C'est La Vie. So I just want to say hello to her. Like, it's amazing that nobody's acknowledged her. Like, what's wrong with y'all?
I acknowledged her, brought her up, and made her a mod.
Yeah, it's because she's such a staple. It's almost goes without saying. It's one of those things.
No, it can't go without saying. We need a verbal.
Shout out to, I'd like to thank God and my mom and dad for making me. Hi.
Yeah, Charles laying it on a little strong here.
I love it.
It's good. It's good. And you admit we're going to get a little preaching out of Charles at some point here too. I hope.
We're gonna get some good stuff.
We're going to get a mini sermon. I want to hear it. But let me just say this real quick. Caleb, I wanted to ask you. God makes a covenant in the Old Testament. Those are with people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Has to be, brother.
Wait, what's your objection? You're saying he
no. It's not what's my objection. So he's making a covenant with who?
Oh yeah, so there may have been a covenant in ancient Israel. I'm kind of agnostic on that. I think that's
How can you be agnostic? Jesus says Jesus makes the new covenant in the upper room with his disciples. How can you be agnostic?
The old covenant exists. I'm not saying the old covenant, like, yes.
You just said you're agnostic on it.
No, I'm agnostic. Okay. I'm agnostic as to whether, like, Abraham literally heard the voice of God and, like, set up a covenant in that way. But, like, of course the Jews had an understanding of the Torah and the Old Testament and moving around.
Brother.
Well, Abraham is Moses.
But Andrew, are you talking about the Abraham covenant or the one with Moses?
I'm talking about whatever covenant you want to say that this specifically referring to. But in Jeremiah, when he says there'll come a time when I will make a new covenant with my people, right? What covenant is being referred to there? The new covenant is the one Christ says this is the blood of the new covenant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He said the new covenant. Yeah. The old covenant is made by real people, right?
Yes, the Jews at the time of Christ had a covenant. Yeah, the old covenant. Yes.
Yeah, and they made it with somebody. Who was that? Yeah, where'd that happen?
Praise the Lord.
Where'd that happen?
Covenant come about?
Yeah, where'd the covenant happen?
Oh, traditionally it came from Abraham and then, like, subsequently Moses.
So there was a guy named Abraham. There was a guy named Moses.
They believe. I think that's what the Jewish people believed. Yeah.
No. What? How can you say that's what they believed? There wouldn't be a new covenant.
Caleb, do you believe Christ's words when he said, if you believe Moses, you will believe me?
No, he'll just say Moses. It could just be words about Moses is a story. It's like, look.
Andrew,
you got to hear how Caleb is putting this, okay? Caleb's saying that he's saying that all of the people of the New Testament, maybe even Christ himself, can have a misunderstanding about the historicity of the characters in the Old Testament. They can think that they're literal, but not actually be literal. That's one thing. The other thing is they may actually just think they're not literal, and they're just saying, "Hey, you should. If you trusted Moses, you would trust me, or you would know."
That might be true for Christ. I think for the others, they really did think they were Christ may. Because I say Christ may or may not have. I think Christ.
Yes, I know. Right. That's what I said. I said that. Right. I'm fair with what you're saying, but just listen. You're saying. It's kind of weird. So think about it. If you do the whole metaphor allegory, it's all not literal thing, or a lot of it's not, right? Or whatever. Let's just assume the non-literal lens for the Old Testament. And let's say the New Testament people thought that, right? When he says that if you would have believed, if you didn't believe Moses, or what the scriptures say, you're not going to believe if somebody rises from the dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird because then you would be saying, here's what you would be saying then, Caleb, check this out. You would be saying that the text that was written about Moses and all of that, right, in the Old Testament, was actually, so it's not literal, it's not historical, but it would have to be divinely inspired because it's telling people about Jesus. It's telling them, the whole point of it is looking forward to Christ. And the only way that could be is if somebody knew the future. So God would have to be the one that's behind that text. But it wouldn't be, you're saying you would have to accept the text as being inspired of God. So you'd be committed to the inspiration of the Old Testament.
You could say that a vision, a spiritual experience, spiritual journey was, which is understood to refer to Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon him. Hither is supposed to be, in our interpretation, the Ahmadiyya understanding, it's actually a representation of Prophet Muhammad. So it's the Jewish and the Christian dispensation meeting the Muslim dispensation.
Did you, just out of curiosity in your own life, like, so I think in order to like find out what's true, you have to like investigate all of the religions. You have to like do philosophy to understand like what is evidence, what is logic, what is rational to believe. Do you think such a thing is necessary? Or do you think that you don't need such a things to get at the truth?
So research is important, but most people in the world have not studied philosophy. If philosophy was necessary to understand religion, the truth of religion, then I'm afraid most people in the world haven't got the aptitude or the knowledge of philosophy, I should say, to be able to reach the right conclusions if philosophy helps them do that. No, religion is understood can be understood by an average person who uses his reason or her reason to get at it.
Do you ever take seriously the idea that, you know, all the religions are just man's fables, that just like the Greeks invented the Greek gods, that Islam invented their own mythology, because that's just a thing cultures do, is invent gods and invent mythologies?
That's a possibility, but I favor the view that prophets came to various people all around the world, and people just corrupted their message over the centuries, over subsequent generations. The original message gets lost, and people, subsequent generations, lose the way.
But do you agree that most cultures have come up with some mythology? Like, if we went to a random Filipino person, their culture came up with some mythology. You go to Armenia, their culture came up with some mythology. Like, every culture has come up with something for explaining the origins of the world and where they go when they die and how to live and who's an in-group member and who's an out-group member. Does it not just seem like a feature of human societies that we make up stories for the answers to those questions?
That's again a possibility to consider, but I favor the view that there were prophets to these various peoples in different lands, different nations. The Quran says that we sent a warning to all people. And people change the message over time. That's what I said before. That kind of answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, so do you think that every religion was from a prophet that had got corrupted? Or were some of them just made up, just whole cloth?
Some of them may be made up, yeah.
I just think it's very, it hurts my soul and brain a little bit that, like, so there's 2 billion Muslims on earth and there's 6 billion non-Muslims. There's 2 billion Christians, there's 6 billion non-Christians. So the majority of people on earth don't believe what you believe, don't believe any religion. So the default view should just be, well, most people think I'm wrong. I am in the minority, and that I'm probably mistaken, and that the majority is probably right on this matter. The consensus view is just that my shit's not real. Like 6 billion humans on Earth all think, nah, this Islam stuff is all just made up nonsense. And then there's 2 billion people that go, no, this is like the Word of God. But that they're dwarfed in number by the people that think it's made up nonsense. You know?
You know that appeal to majority is usually a logical fallacy, right?
Sometimes it is. I mean, it is some evidence, testimonial evidence, and the weight of consensus is some amount of evidence. It's not as decisive evidence, but it's just like something to consider. It's also worth considering that, like, when you think of the smartest people that ever lived, they don't just all convert to Islam, you know? And the Quran says it gives clear signs. It's a clear book with clear revelations to make you certain of your, it keeps talking about how clear it is and how obvious the signs are. But yet, the greatest thinkers of all time, the great inventors, the great mathematicians, the great philosophers, when they read, it's not like there's some grand pattern of them finding the Quran and then converting. So that, again, the Quran says it's clear, and yet they're not converting. I guess it isn't so clear after all.
Well, the Quran says God guides whom he wills, and he lets go astray whom he wills. So he's got reasons that why people. He says he does not guide the wicked, the wrongdoers. So people may be doing certain wrong things as a result of which they're not being rightly guided. I don't know. Maybe that's the.
But why would he purposely not rightly guide the smartest people?
Intelligence is one thing and a beneficial thing. The Quran encourages the use of reason and understanding in these matters. But it just doesn't mean that just because someone is using their mind properly in a certain field, that means they're also using their mind properly with regards to God's existence and their relationship with Him.
Yeah, well, one hypothesis is that God is purposely making it obscure for the smartest people that ever lived. Another option is just that the smartest people that ever lived look at the Quran and find it not plausible that the creator of the universe made this, and that your worldview is untrue, and that it can be seen, it can be known by people. Very smart people can just tell this. That's like another hypothesis that explains the data.
I mean, you've asked questions about the Quran, about testimony, about sleeping with slaves. I've been able to respond to them. And I'm not a particularly intelligent person, I don't think.
I don't know if you've heard of these people: Einstein, Newton, Gauss, Leibniz, Hume, Kant, Wittgenstein, Bertrand Russell, Kurt Gödel, John von Neumann, Richard Feynman, Stephen Hawking, Roger Penrose, Noam Chomsky, Darwin, Blaise Pascal, Spinoza, Turing, Terence Tao, Quine, Popper, Ed Witten, Carl Sagan, Marvin Minsky. I can keep going. There's just unbelievable geniuses, and they just look at the Quran and they go, "Oh, this is not plausible," and they just don't even think it's even worth kind of discussing. And this is like the general tendency of the smartest people that ever lived, is to not convert to Islam. And some of the smartest Persian minds went away from Islam. People like Al-Razi, Amari, Al-Rawandi, they were part of the Islamic Golden Age in Persia, and they also left Islam. So it seems that when you become more educated in philosophy, in science, more intelligent, you tend to leave Islam rather than joining Islam. And so that's evidence that this is just not true.
I'm not sure these people have studied the Quran and understood it. So far, the questions you have been asking about Islam, the Quran especially, have been able to respond to satisfactorily, at least to me. And you weren't able to counter the testimony issue or the sleeping with slaves issue. You did mention about slavery. I didn't get a chance to respond to that. The Quran actively encourages the freeing of slaves. The fact
But I looked up the academics of Islam, so people who study the like, the Quran and the antiquity, Arabic linguistics, early Islamic history, Quran manuscripts. So I looked at the academics of that, and I saw if the people who spend the most time studying these texts in the context, whether they reliably convert to Islam. And the answer is no. Most of them are atheists and don't convert. So again, the Quran says it gives clear signs. And then the people who are studying, the academics that are studying Quranic manuscripts and early Islamic Arabic and all that stuff, people have direct access to all this stuff. They don't convert. Neither do the smartest people that have ever lived convert. And you should just pause and go, the people that are most likely to convert, experts on these manuscripts, and then also they're just the smartest philosophers ever, they're not converting. Maybe they know something that I don't know. Maybe they have access to different evidence and better arguments that I don't have. And maybe I should be open to maybe Islam's not true. Maybe this is like a superstition, one of the many of thousands of religions that have just been made up by a culture.
So I became agnostic when I was at university and developed faith after that. Yeah, what are you going to say about that?
That you can then lose faith again, that a person changes their mind over their lifetime as they consider more evidence and reason about it more.
I mean, you have to present the evidence of these people and their arguments against the Quran. Leave the hadith aside because, it's not according to the Quran. I'm not going to accept it. So if you can give me evidence from the Quran that there are flaws that cannot be explained, you might have more reason to sympathize with your view.
Have we talked about the point about how because there's so many religions, the default isn't 50-50. The default is that any religion you consider isn't true. So like if I just randomly open up some random book on some Druid religion in ancient Brussels, okay, that's probably not the true religion because most religions are false. So it's not that I need some extreme amounts of evidence to show that Islam is false. The default is that every religion is probably not true and that they need a lot of evidence to go against the fact that there are thousands of religions that are all mutually contradictory to each other. Do you understand? So the default is if you don't prove that religion, that Islam, the Quran, was created by the creator of the fucking universe, the default is that you just shouldn't believe it.
So, I mean, my knowledge is more related to the Quran than any other book, or about Islam than any other religion. So if you can establish that Islam is false, especially from the Quran, then I would be inclined to sympathize with your view. But if you're just talking hypothetically, then, my view, I've already explained to you that religions were corrupted over the generations following the prophets. If you can, so there will be some truth in most of the religions, some element of truth in them, which I would find consistency with the Quran, to be consistent with the Quran. If not, then maybe it is a false religion. That's my yardstick. So if you can establish that my yardstick is flawed, I would be more inclined to sympathize with your view.
So I'm very confident that you can just falsify the Quran, but I'm saying that even if I cannot do that, the default should be don't believe that. If I told you right now, I am a prophet of God, you should think probably not, because most people who say they're prophets of God are in fact liars or insane. So the default should be don't believe someone that says they're talking from God unless they show very extreme evidence. But I'm happy to just show you what's wrong with the Quran and why it's just false on its own, like for its own sake. But you should understand that the default is just that you shouldn't believe someone saying that they're a prophet, because most people that say they're prophets are not prophets.
Okay, many many, I would say, are not. Maybe even most, but some are, and that is good enough for me. So
Well, I don't think any are. So
okay, but you have to prove it. Prove it from the book that actually this book is flawed. The 2 or 3 issues that you brought up that we've discussed haven't been enough to convict.
okay. Well, so if you want to look at just very obvious errors, it says that all fruits come in pairs. They don't.
Show me the verse.
Okay, 13:3. Did you find it?
Yeah, I'm just reading it. Okay, so can you establish that that is false?
Yeah, so what do you think pairs means?
Pairs? 2 pairs?
Yeah, so it says every fruit. Allah created fruits of every kind in pairs. What does that mean?
Let me reflect on that. He just split up the earth and met the mountains and the fruits of every kind. Could be different varieties.
So there's like a Granny Smith apple and a Red Delicious apple. Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because I don't think not every fruit has a pair of it. Doesn't have like a complement or a second one. Sometimes you have ones where there's just one variety. Sometimes there's hundreds of varieties. there's not really some system where they all have two varieties.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, so that's it. The Islam scholars that said that every fruit comes in pairs, but they don't.
Okay, you got something else?
Why would I move on from that? That just is enough to settle it.
So I did a search on the Arabic grammar of the words used, Zawjaini Ithnaini. And it says it's a common misconception to say that Quran claims every individual fruit is a twin. The verse uses a dual form, Zawjaini, two pairs or two categories. So I'll have to look into it, what it actually means. It's saying it's a misconception.
I'm saying that there's no reading of it that you could do that where it would ever come out true that every fruit has some sort of pair. Like, there's no reading of it that would save it because there's just nothing about it. Doesn't matter. It could be varieties, it could be genders, it could be, the first ones being two, but there's just no reading. None of those work. So you can pick whatever interpretation you want. None of them are going to come out true. And every fruit has some sort of pair situation going on.
Okay, I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Alright, I'll give you another one. It says in the Quran in 25:53 that Allah is the one who merges the two bodies of water, one fresh water and one salty and bitter, placing between them a barrier that they cannot cross. So it's saying there's salt water, fresh water, and then God put a barrier that they cannot cross. But fresh water and salt water do mix. And if you just look at the Wikipedia page for brackish water, that is the places on Earth where they do mix. So the Quran says that they cannot cross the barrier, but yet the Wikipedia page for brackish water shows that they do cross.
So you're saying that this is not a barrier that cannot be crossed?
Yeah, they do cross all the time.
You sure about that?
Yeah, look at the Wikipedia page. Actually, I'll just read it to you because I don't need you to go look it up yourself. So this is brackish water. Brackish water, sometimes known as brack water, is water occurring in a natural environment that has more salinity than fresh water, but not as much as seawater. It is a result of mixing seawater with fresh water, such as in estuaries, or it may occur in brackish fossil aquifers. Anyway, there's just a whole bunch of places on Earth where salt water and fresh water do mix with each other. It's called brackish water. And the Quran says they cannot cross. So it says they cannot cross, but they do cross with each other. That's just an error.
Okay, let's move on from there. Do you have another?
Wait, do you have any comments on the brackish water?
I would have to look into it.
Okay, well, it seems like we've got two issues right now where it seems like the Quran is just false, and you want to just move on. Alright, let's move on to something else. The Quran describes there being 7 skies and 7 earths. That's Surah Al-Mulk 67:3. Also, it's in Surah Al-Talaq 65:12. There's not 7 earths, there's not 7 skies. There's 1 sky and 1 earth.
Because the number 7 in Arabic and 70 signify multiplicity. So it's not taken literally. It just means a lot.
Okay, well, there's still just 1 earth. There's other planets, but there's just 1 earth.
67:3, did you say?
Yeah.
Who has created the 7 heavens in harmony? It's just doesn't mention Earth.
Well, it says one above the other. So this, I guess, is where the 7 heavens, but then the other one says the 7 skies. Sorry, the 7 earths. Surah Al 65:12. The Quran is about the earths. Allah is the one who created 7 heavens in layers, and likewise for the earth.
I will have to go and research these verses. Let me write them down. Could you remind me of the verse for the saltish and brackish water?
Mm-hmm. So for the saltwater one, it's 25:53. 25:53.
And
The pears, that's 13:3.
okay, 9 years.
Yeah. I got a lot. I wrote a whole book on why Islam's not true. So I can literally do this all day. So it said that Adam and Eve were created directly from clay, and they were shaped like with the breath was put into them, and they were molded out of clay. But we know that we evolved from apes rather than being made out of clay.
Which verse?
38, 71, and 72. I'll read it to you. Remember, O prophet, when your Lord said to the angels, I'm going to create a human being from clay. And so when I have fashioned him and had a spirit of my own creation breathed into him, fall down in prostration to him. So it's saying that you make the person out of clay, shape him,
about the
and put a soul into him.
women and
As opposed to what we know happens with science is that we evolved from monkeys.
Okay, I have.
I forgot about the women and children, the future of Islamic scamming.
I'm not by any means an evolution scientist, but
Well, I forgot about the women
my
and children,
understanding
the
is
future
that
of
the
Islamic
Quran
scamming.
talks about creation by means of evolution. So whilst it does not necessarily endorse Darwinian evolution or even creation or development from the
Oh, I
apes,
see. You can.
it does talk about a process of gradual development. So this verse I would read it differently.
Willfully.
I'm about to create man from clay, from the earth, from soil. The Quran talks about creation of all life from water. It talks about
I see.
creation from
You care about
from
humans who are willfully
fish,
ignorant
organic
scammers who demand you accept their
blood. So it talks
worldview or
about the
be
different
killed. Okay,
stages in the creation of
good choice.
life. And in this particular instance, when I have fashioned him into perfection, right? So when he's already physically perfected, and then have breathed into him of my spirit, may refer to divine revelation, not breathed into it. I don't know what, or the soul, breathe the soul into it, but breathe into it of my spirit, meaning divine revelation. Fall ye down in submission to him. That is referring to a prophet who receives divine revelation. So it's your understanding of the passage which is at flaw here as to what the verse is actually saying.
Don't you think that the natural reading of it is that they made him fashioned a clay object and then put a soul into it, and then that was the person?
I choose pizza with garlic, and my day with OJ was and is more real than anything a Muslim has ever declared.
Okay, well, maybe the other verses just are contradictory with this. Like, you are assuming that the Quran has to be consistent with itself, but or maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe the book is full of contradictions. Like, that's also possible.
No, in this one I would argue my case based on other verses, along with this verse. This verse is talking about prophethood. So it says the angels all submitted. Angels don't fall in submission to a non-prophet. They do to prophets.
Okay. Other stuff, which is an issue. It says that ants can have human concepts in the Quran. This is Surah Al-Nami 27:18. So I'll just read it to you. And when they came across a valley of ants, an ant warned
warned, "Oh, ants, go quickly to your homes, so Solomon and his armies do not crush you unknowingly." So Solomon smiled in amusement at her words and prayed. So the ant there's an ant, and it understands who Solomon is, understands that Solomon has a name, that there's such a thing as kings, with people with names. He understands the concept of homes and armies. These are human concepts. Now, the way ants communicate is with pheromones. They fart out various smells that make them follow each other. But they don't. No scientist thinks that ants have concepts like this. No.
Yeah, I've looked at this before. Again, not in a great deal of detail. But the interpretation of these verses is that the valley of the ants is actually referring to valley of the tribe known as the ants. And Arabs have these names. Banu Asad means the tribe of the lion. So these kind of names exist in the Arab world. And so reading the Quran, I favor the understanding that this was a valley of a tribe known as the ants. And a member of the tribe said, "O you Naml," that is the people of the ants, "enter your habitations, lest Solomon and his host crush you whilst they know not." So it's talking about people entering their habitations. Ants don't do this, and Solomon and his army wouldn't be after the ants anyway. So in any case,
the one problem with your interpretation is that if you stepped on a person or a person's house, you would know that you did it. Whereas if you stepped on an ant, you wouldn't know you did it. So when it says they don't crush you unknowingly, that better is explained by the people you're crushing being so small that you can't see them. That's why it's an unknowing crushing.
No, I don't buy that. Because the response of Solomon is, it's not possible for literal ants to recognize Solomon. So
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's an error.
Well, I'm saying it's just a misunderstanding. In fact, the previous verse says that they were gathered into Solomon, verse number 17. They were gathered into Solomon his house of jinn, men, and birds, and they were formed into separate divisions. So these men and birds and jinn are not actually literal jinn and literal birds. They are the interpretation, which I've looked into before, not recently, but I was convinced that this is not referring to literal birds, because they are his hosts. And actually, it's not just, there's another verse which says that Allah has taught us the language of birds. So, literal birds. It's not literal ants. Move on to another one. You won't convince me on this one.
So it says in the Quran that just like the Christians think that Jesus is the Messiah, the Jews think that Ezra is the Son of God, but no Jews think that Ezra is the Son of God. There's no evidence that any Jews think that Ezra is the Son of God. And the fact that you're comparing it to a general belief of Christians means you're talking about a general belief of Jews. For example, if I say dogs are like this and cats are like this, I'm talking about dogs and cats in general. So if I say Christians are like this in general, then they think that Jesus is the Messiah. Then when they say that Jews think that Ezra is the Messiah, that means in general they think that. And that's definitely not true. Jews do not in general think Ezra is the Son of God.
So I would read it, it mentions the Jews first. It mentions the Christians afterwards. And the Jews had this concept of sons of God. And they were not supposed to take it literally. It meant a servant of God who was close to God. It was not a literal son of God. But if they elevated someone and took the expression more literally, they elevated someone higher than he actually was. And this is what it is indicating. It mentions Jews first because that's where the concept originated from and where the corruption initially happened. And it went full scale with the Christians. So it's not widespread, I agree, amongst the Jews. But apparently there was a group of Jews in Yemen who believed him to be the Son of God.
I've heard that that's not true, and that there's literally zero evidence of any Jewish sect believing this. So you should ask ChatGPT if there any evidence that this is true, and make sure you ask not just do Islamic scholars think it, but do secular academics think it.
Well, P, you're quite masculine in a way. No, but in a good, powerful sort of woman way.
They're about the same length. I think my ring finger might even be like slightly longer. I've heard this before.
Testosterone thing. But that's meant to be the
but
testosterone intake.
Hi, T. But
you're the monster.
She's the high T matriarch of the Packers.
You got more than I have.
Oh my god.
She hates when I make her matriarch.
I'm never opening another room again. And I'm going to the hormone clinic to
embrace it. You're a UConn mom. You're an amazing.
Can you show me the scripture?
No. Did he tell the man to take up his
I'm not asking who he told. I'm talking about he himself. Show me where he himself did it.
So clarification, are we referring to physical labor?
Yeah, all type of physical labor is not work in the context of the Bible. Any type of physical labor or doing any type of work is breaking the Sabbath.
Okay.
You gonna make the sister talk? You shouldn't even get up from your bed. You should lay down in your bed all day.
At this point, I'm gonna get pissed off.
We can't have women get pissed off on the podcast.
I was having nothing for me tonight. I ain't got pissed off if I'm not landing my foot.
Now y'all going down.
Slow down, Steve Biscuit.
I'm trying to y'all. God said he already supposed to cause confusion either. Y'all cause confusion.
From a place of an atheist. So if somebody who actually believes in God would know that God can eat, that's something so easily for God to do. Like that's something that's so light. But since you don't, so hold on real quick. So because you don't believe in God and you don't know God, that's why you have that kind of mindset.
Sorry, you need to go slower, okay?
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
But also, if you're saying that God could just save the fish, I agree, he could just save the fish, but then he could just save the animals too. So then why is Noah getting them in the ark? If he's just doing little miracles for each fish and do little miracles for each animal too. The whole purpose of the Noah story makes no sense then.
No, not really, because God could just, when you, like I said, when you're coming from a place of an atheist, you will understand. But when you actually believe in God, God can do what he wants. So if he wants to save two animals, why did he even use water then? Like I said, like, you know the questions you keep asking why?
Why do you keep
because he can. No, I'm just saying because he can. He's God.
But so he didn't even need to use water to clean the earth, right?
Like, you will never get it because you don't believe it. Like, it blows my mind. Like you're wasting your time. Really and truly.
I think you came into a conversation that was progressing pretty civilly, and you just sound like a retard.
I get it, and I understand.
I get it too.
So, like I was saying, right? If you're coming from a place of atheist and you don't believe in God, in a million years, you.
Anyway, Islam, what do you think about the flood thing?
I'm reading as the Quran is that it was a regional flood. And it's not possible for an ark to contain all the different animal species on Earth anyway. He just took with him pairs of domesticated animals that were needed on the ark for the course of the 40 days or whatever it was that there was going to be a flood in this region.
Okay, what do you see what perfected? It says that meteors are lamps used to pelt devils. That's 67.5.
So it's really referring to, let's have a look. Which verse? This is another one.
67.5.
67.5. 67.5. So this should be understood in the context that actually it's angels behind those.
It's like the first time he's discovering his favorite book.
To make the universe function as it is. So it's really a reference to angels who are behind the planets and stars, which are described as lamps.
Let me read it. We adorn the lowest heaven, so that's the nearest one to us, with lamps, and made them for stoning devils. But first off, the meteors are not lamps. Secondly, you're stoning a devil with a meteor. That's not the meteors are just rocks that are floating around the solar system. They're not little lamps for throwing at devils. And also, are devils? Why are they floating in outer space? What is this even? What model is this of the world, such that you have random devils in outer space that can be hit by rocks? The whole thing is bizarre.
Okay, I read about this recently, but I've forgotten the details, so I'll look into this as well. Okay?
Okay, sure. I'm glad you're willing to look into these things. It says that there's Gog and Magog.
Not to look into.
Are like an army, and then they are behind a wall trapped. So between two mountains, there's a wall made of iron and bronze, for which Gog and Magog, which is a large number of people, is behind this wall, and that the wall will come down at the day of judgment, and then they will all spill out in the day of judgment. But my thing is, we have satellite images of every square centimeter of this planet. If there was a giant wall holding back an army that was made of bronze and iron, we would have found it by now. But we haven't found it because it doesn't exist, because the story is a myth.
Okay, I'll add that to the last item on my list. What's the verse number?
This is from the dual Cornane verse, but the exact, it's somewhere in the chapter, which is the dual Cornane chapter.
18.
Is it 18? Okay. It's in the sort of toward the end of that one. Does it talk about Gog and Magog behind the wall and stuff?
Okay, I thought you were going to raise moral objections against the Quran, such as you'd started off with, but I wasn't prepared for these ones, or most of these ones. So I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, but also be open to that. Maybe Islam, don't just try to come up with whatever an apologetics will say to counter them. Just your most fundamental duty as a human being is to live in truth and to find out what's true. And if it looks like Islam isn't true, then find something that is true, because the truth is what matters. So don't fall into a trap.
And you keep reading that book.
If Islam's true, I will absolutely convert to Islam. And
And that's my duty as a good person, to follow the evidence where it leads me.
Yeah, all the best to you.
All the best to you, man.
Take care.
See it. That was the most respectful Islam interaction I've ever had.
Dude, I had the same fucking thing with him, like, Wednesday for like an hour. Same thing, dude. Same tone. I did what you did. I went through his book. We talked. We addressed issues, and he was the same respectful. The same thing, dude. Yep.
Well, hopefully, I mean, he seems like a very nice guy, and hopefully, he's also seems pretty reasonable guy. Hopefully, that with enough conversations, he can be reasoned out of it. Now, I'm not holding my breath over this, it's not likely, but I mean, he's willing to say things like it's a regional flood, because how could he fit all the animals in the ark? Or ants don't have human concepts, so how could it? Probably it's people called ants. Like he's willing to be kind of like make, I don't know. So it gives me hope for him, So
yeah, no, he was. That's what I see. It's interesting, dude. You and I literally had very similar conversations with him within a week.
People think you're abrasive, honey, but I think you kind of match energy a lot of the time. And if someone's being reasonable to you, you'll be reasonable back, I think.
Yeah, and obviously this is all kind of showtime, and it's a roast. So I mean, it just depends on what's going on, and it's reflective,
He sounds like a rather receptive as well. So go ahead, Sam. No, you go ahead. Were you listening to that conversation? Did you see how it all went down?
I was listening to a lot of it. And so it's a button, but yeah. He's part of like a really weird sect. He thinks that the Mahdi has already come. So they're called Ahmadiyya Muslims. And they think that in 1989, a guy named Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in British India is the long-awaited Messiah and Imam Mahdi. So it's a rather interesting fact there. I don't know if that makes him more or less reasonable. I don't know what you would think. But if someone believing the Messiah has arrived in 1989, does that factor in at all on how reasonable you think they are?
Well, I mean, a couple things. First off, I was born in 1988, so they got the 1 year off. You know what I'm saying? Like, before when the Messiah came.
You think every Muslim is a Salafi? You know that social Islamic group is an Ahmadi, and they come from
we're just talking about that.
Yeah, and they don't believe in miracles or any such thing. Like, they see these as visions and theophanies. Like, without studying his school of thought, you thought you could attack him, or at least knowing who he is, with your freaking dumbass points that are made for the literalists, right? So, I mean, he's obviously laughing at you.
We had a very respectful conversation, Argus.
He's always respectful to even the biggest fool on earth.
Yeah, so we had a nice conversation. He had never heard of a lot of the things I brought up. So, like the saltwater, freshwater, all fruits are in pairs, Gog Mahog behind the wall, stars are used to help devils.
He's a hafiz. You can tell him, just utter a word and he'll tell you where it is in the Quran. He was so respectful to you that he was such as known for it. He's on Discord.
I had to tell him multiple times.
You don't know him. He's a yes, because he was respecting you.
No. He just didn't know where they were in the Quran. He just hears wrong with this one.
Yeah.
It would have been really nice if he knew everything in the Quran where it was, because then I wouldn't have had to look up where the verses were each time. It would have been convenient. But yeah, I think Mahdi has already come, and his name is Mahdi, and we just have like the worst prophet. You know what I mean? Like the Muslims got fucked by just having this terrible Mahdi, Like, imagine he comes down from heaven and it's like, you were fools. How could you believe this? You know, like. Daniel, you there, brother?
Yo.
Did you see? Check your messages on Discord because I found an Ethan Muse clone that I want to show you.
Alright, give me just a few minutes.
Oh my god, baby.
Hey Sam, have you ever talked with this guy Muhammad?
I've talked to many Muhammads in my day, but I don't know. Are you the one in the audience?
Popular name for Muslim guys. Have you talked with Muhammad Adam, who's in the audience right now?
Maybe not. I'm not sure.
You should engage with him and see what you think.
It's Sufi. What are you laughing at?
I'm guessing. I somehow doubt that Honey is being like, oh yeah, be a lovely, respectful girlfriend.
I don't think he's as bad as Mahdi, but I don't think he's as smart as Mahdi, so you can't do what Mahdi does.
Something might be.
I think he's like 19 and he's like a gamer or something, so he just like says stupid shit.
Something that a little bit bothers me about these Islam debates is like the best arguments against Islam are just like literally too abstract for most Muslims to be able to grapple with. So here's what would be my favorite argument against Islam. All of the features of the Quran, if you have two hypotheses that a human wrote it and that God wrote it, a human explanation requires way fewer assumptions and way fewer like auxiliary like parts of the hypothesis. Like it explains all the data with no auxiliary assumptions needed, whereas the divine hypothesis requires like hundreds of extra auxiliary hypotheses to justify. And like this is just like not a point that they like understand that like you would have compare two hypotheses by explanatory power and number of auxiliary hypotheses that needed to like prop up the theory. You know, like it's just like not. It's too abstract. So I just never bring it up. You know.
Well, what's funny is like on one hand, it's almost like they act like they understand that that's the case because it's so simple and obvious, but that's really not what they believe. Like they'll tell you on one hand that you should get it. Oh, have you even read the Quran? And then on the other hand, it's like you got to be like some amazing academic and you got to look extra Quranically and all this stuff. It's just wild.
Yeah. So I have it written out like this: that a human author would produce a text that reflects local culture, norms, animals, politics, revises itself over 20 years as circumstances change, contains ambiguity and abrogation, uses threats and insults and loyalty enforcement, grants special privileges to the leader, borrows and reshapes existing myths and stories, shows stylistic evolution over time, needs scholars to fix and harmonize and reinterpret it, relies on unreliable oral tradition, has no knowledge beyond its horizon of its era, inspires civil conflict after the leader's death. Like all of that just like directly, you have the human hypothesis, all of that just like naturally follows from it. You don't need to like throw in extra assumptions or extra like, there's nothing that, it just smoothly follows from it. Whereas when you have the divine hypothesis, it's like, okay, God purposely chose ambiguity while claiming clarity. God uses purposely chosen error-prone oral transmission for mandatory guidance for some reason. God revised his perfect rules for some reason and then stopped revising for forever for some reason. God allowed false world models into his text. Like, you just have to keep adding in like excuses and theories to justify these different things. Whereas the human one, everything is entailed by that. Like a human wrote it, so all of that would be expected,
Interesting. Did you say you wrote that this is like a essay or something? Like, what is this? You just did you do this on paper, or is this like a What is it?
Everything, bro. Like, what do you think?
Interesting. Like, where is this, like, in some kind of like academic paper you wrote, or is this just for yourself, or what? Because I kind of want to see it. I think that's cool. I want to assess it and like use it.
Sure. I'll send you. Okay.
Like, do you think that, Mohammed, I just want to make sure. So earlier when I first said you believe that your prophet can mistake an angel for a jinn, you said, when did I ever say that? Genius. And then when I reminded you that we already covered this, now you're conceding and now you're saying, oh yeah, why isn't that a problem? Right? See, like that kind of level stuff is just pretty dishonest and, not really cool, bro.
Yeah, so Honey Badger, I linked my book that I wrote for Why Islam's False at the top. And then the thing I said where I compared the two hypotheses fact to fact, that's in the summary at the top of the page. There's like a shorter summary of the entire book where I compare the two hypotheses next to each other.
Awesome, dude. I just saved it to my notes. Thanks.
Nice.
And wait, just tell me the detail again. So I took what you put in there, and then what did you say? Was it like extra stuff?
So at the top of the page of the document, so the document's like really long. But then there's at the top of it, there's a shorter summary, which is a link. It's right away. It says why Islam is false. Shorter summary can be found here. And you can.
I'll put that right now. There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude. That's gonna be great. I love this. Is like, because I didn't even crack a Quran until like the last 2 years, so it's been interesting reading it because it's really not that interesting yet. It's supposed to be extremely interesting.
It's horribly written. It's really boring and repetitive. It literally keeps over and over saying how I'm going to be burned to death and tortured over and over. It just keeps repeating that over and over.
Well, it really wants to, drive the point home. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it really drives it home. I didn't. You need to keep telling me. I didn't know that was your stance, Quran.
Okay, how's this one? What is, because you know a lot more about this than I do, obviously, you wrote a book about this shit. What is the most oppressive thing that, here's my position. My position is, if God, or a divine of anything divine, or something was divinely written, right, is real, if it really is that, if that is the case, then I would expect something impressive and accurate and scientifically compelling to come from it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they say. I'm in line. That's aligned with what they tell me. So what is it, right? And it's never anything that impressive. So is there something that you believe is at least like a 6 or 7 out of 11?
I think literally there's nothing scientifically interesting in any way in the Quran. the best they have, I would say, is when there's let me find the text first. Okay, so they think that the expanded universe is predicted by the Quran. Okay, it says we built the heaven with power, and we built the heaven with power. We are its expander. Okay, and he's saying that means that we predicted the expansion universe. So first off, it could just mean that that when you make something, you like expand it. So it could just be that. Secondly, many different translations of that have it as we made the universe vast, we made the universe ample, we made the universe big. So like many translations of it aren't even that they has expanding in it. Okay. The Lamusiun in classical Arabic equals possessors of vast power and abundance, expanding space-time. And then like early tafsir never mentioned the cosmology of that or the expanding universe. So it just, it's you take a word that means we made the universe ample and big and try to like turn that into we've predicted the, expansionary, Big Bang model and shit like that. Like, no, you didn't do that. You just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like always shit like that where they're trying to take a really vague word that has always been translated one way, and then after the discoveries in the 20th century or 21st century of things, to say, oh yeah, we predicted it all along. It's always that. It's always fucking that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always. And isn't there something even more like accurately depicted in like the Bhagavad Gita about something like maybe the age of the earth or the age of something? Like there's actually something that's in the ballpark that is more concise and is scientifically rigorous and not as embellished and vague.
There's something like that, but I don't remember exactly what it is, and it also isn't accurate. Like last time I just looked into it, it was not.
Right. It's still inaccurate, yet it's like a 7.1 out of 11 instead of like a 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's one thing which is really cool in one Hindu text, or maybe it was Buddhist text. I think it was Hindu. They said, "How long is a kalpa?" And a kalpa is like one of the eons of the universe, or whatever. And they said, okay, you take a mountain, and then once a year, you rub the mountain with a piece of like basically tissue paper, okay? And then when you've rubbed the mountain until it's nothing but dust, that's how long a kalpa is. And it's a very poetic idea, but also I love that they are able to think about numbers that big, because usually people in the ancient world just aren't thinking on that fucking level of, length time, So I just like it for that.
It's called the what kind of the what? A kalpa? What did you say?
Kalpa, kalpa.
And you wipe it with a tissue. Wait, I gotta hold on.
Okay, so you ask, the sage is asked, how long is a kalpa? And he says, if you rubbed a mountain with a piece of tissue paper once a year, by the time you hit it should scrub it to dust.
Yeah.
That's how long the kalpa would be,
Like an infinite.
Yeah, it's like an obscenely long, like trillions of years.
And so what's the highlight on that piece? What do they use it as some kind of measurement for something, or what's the deal?
Well, I just think it's cool that they're thinking about cosmic time as like usually most ancient religions think that shit's not that old. So it's kind of nice that they're able to reason about it like that. I'll give you like an example of that. So the ancient Greeks actually did posit maybe the sun, Earth goes around the sun, But what they said was, well, if the Earth was going around the sun, we would see the stars in the background moving because we were moving so much. We would see the stars moving. And if the stars were closer, they would be right. But because the stars are like light years away, that's not true. And so they just didn't fathom that the universe was as big as it is. So it's kind of like one of these things where like ancient peoples just thought things were smaller in scale than they actually are. You know?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, of course. It's wild. I mean, it's kind of like us now. Like we're like, holy crap, we don't know shit. You know. That Kalpa thing, that's interesting. It's like a day of Brahma, like in Brahmin days, like the Brahma. Yeah, interesting. Hey, at least they were, you know, that's pretty good. I mean, at least they got that far. You know, that's pretty good.
I'm a big fan of Hinduism, and I think Hinduism is a way more interesting religion than Islam, both like philosophically, morally, like basically in every way possible. That a religion could be better than another religion.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I'm not even interested in really talking to Hindus just because I'm sure it'd probably be a colorfully pleasant talk that wouldn't really be too confrontational, you know?
Yeah. And they think that there's like, you know, like partial souls inside rocks, and I go like, okay, well, like that's not a big deal. I don't need to like fight you on that. Like it's whatever. Like, like whatever, bro.
Which is kind of interesting, really, because honestly, I've said even in a serious way that I believe that like reincarnation is actually more reasonable and plausible than the eternal afterlife, God, Yahweh, heaven and hell concept.
Yeah.
And it could kind of go into that, you know, like DNA is kind of a trip, even just on a real scientific level. If you think about it as memory, like what's going on there, you know, like even, I don't know, there's tons of shit we don't know about, but like, that's interesting. Partial souls in rocks. It's almost like it's like the anthropomorphizing of physics again, you know?
Yeah. One thing that's annoying about Hinduism is like there's so many different sects of it that it's very hard to characterize it as a whole because it's like, okay, well, this guy thinks this, this guy thinks this, what I think. But in general, you got to think of it as like they rhyme with each other. They're influencing on each other. They're riffs on each other, you know. So you can kind of talk about general tendencies. And in general, Hinduism tends to be nonviolent and about, you know, good karma, doing your dharma, reaching enlightenment, you know, very reasonable goals, at least much more reasonable than, you know, using violence to spread jihad. You know, jihad.
Yeah, I mean, Islam seems a lot like a militant version of Calvinism or something.
Yeah. It's kind of unfunny that in Islam the Protestants won, whereas in Christianity the Catholics won pretty much. What I'm kind of getting at is that like the Shias, the Sunnis are more like the Protestants, where they like sola scriptura, you know, everyone can read the Quran, whatever. Whereas the Shias are more like, no, you need an expert to tell you what the Quran says. It's more like the Catholic Church.
Yeah, see, I don't even know much about that. I haven't really looked at that too much. Oh, now I see. I said this, and someone had said something about Mikhail still defend the Trinity, and I thought he was referring to Daniel up here with Mikhail's picture. I didn't even see the freaking thing at the top. The poll. Did Mikhail get, he's off the app.
I hope he's off Jeopardy. He's one of the most odious people I've ever had the misfortune of meeting.
I'm going to just feel bad for the guy.
Why?
Because he seems just, like, damaged and angry.
Fair enough.
I mean, he's obviously rancid and mean and stuff, and won't shut the fuck up. But yeah, I mean, probably just feel like poor guy.
He kept trying to get me to debate him on Islam. And I was just like, bro, you literally have to my face defended the rape of political prisoners, killing of apostates, the Holocaust denial, like just the most fucking vile shit, like having sex with 9-year-olds. He's defended all of it. Like, why would I want to talk to you? You're just like a kind of gross, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost unbelievable, right? That's what I mean. It's like so extreme, and he's just so like, it's just weird. Like he can't really believe that stuff and take himself seriously. He has to be, front.
I don't know, man. I think people do believe stupid shit, man.
That woman is bad.
I think there's like an IQ empathy band where like you can only empathize with someone of like a similar IQ as you, and if someone's like sufficiently stupid, you just like you lose your ability to empathize with them, and that's why you're tempted to say, "Oh, he doesn't really believe it. He doesn't." Like, it's like, no, you're just too smart to fucking like fully understand a mind like that. Like,
Yeah, when I first, I used to say that more, and now I'm actually more open to believing that they actually do believe this shit that comes out of their mouths. Because I've had people that I respect on here be like, no, dude, you gotta understand, these people do believe this, bro. I'm like, really? What? Wow, fucking crazy.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, peace. Have a good night, dude.
Good night, bro. Dan, you there, man? Danny boy. Danny boy. Hey, Danny.
Come on, yo. Very few weeks. Any good faith conversation. So now, so the point is this, right? No, show me the data.
Focus like a flame, still in all this sound. Bend like water, you will not break now. One thought in, one thought out. Nothing extra, nothing loud. Just this moment, just this round of easy breathing, easy now. Bend like water, follow gravity down. Slowly breathe, roots you to the ground. Focus like a flame, still in all the sound. Bend like water, you are steady now. Soft inhale, count it in your chest. Let the shoulders fall, nothing to impress. Eyes on a point, steady as a stone. Thoughts drift past, you let them go. Bend like water, follow gravity down. Slow, deep breathing, roots you to the ground. Focus like a flame, still in all this sound. Burn like water, you will not break now. Notice every edge where the tension hides. Send your breath there, feel it slide. Neck like a reed, swaying in the wind. Mind like a lake, quiet from within. On a word like water, follow gravity whisper, nothing loud. Just this moment, just this round of easy breathing, easy now. And like water, follow gravity down. Slowly breathe, roots you to the ground. Focus like a flame, still in all this sun. Then like water, you are steady now. Inhale slowly, count it out, 1, 2, 3. Feel your ribs making room for you to be. Knees sink heavy into ground that doesn't move. Mind keeps talking, you just watch it pass on through. And like water, flow around, you can hold, follow your breathing. Let it gather, let it. Inhale slowly, count it out, 1, 2, 3. Feel your ribs making room for you to be. Knees sink heavy into ground that doesn't move. Mind keeps talking, you just watch it pass on through. Bend like water, flow around, you can't hold. Follow your breathing, let it gather, let it go. Every small distraction, just a wave that rolls on through. Bend like water. Quiet room, heartbeat drum in my chest. All this noise dreaming of to this endless, wordless ocean made of love. Quiet room, heartbeat drum in my chest. All this noise fading down to a breath. I feel the floor holding every step I've taken. I close my eyes, watch my worries go vacant. I breathe in peace, I breathe out war inside. I breathe in strength, every tremble, every tide. I breathe in joy, let it rise above. I breathe in light, and I breathe out. Soft blue sky, even with my eyes closed. Every scar, like a map of gold. I bless the cracks where the gentle light is pouring. I bless the past for the way it keeps informing. I breathe in peace, I breathe out war inside. I breathe in strength, every tremble, every tide. I breathe in joy, let it rise above. I breathe in light, and I breathe out. Every hurt I held too tight. Every name I called myself. Every tear that never fell, now it's shining on my skin. I am open, I am open. Let the healing. I breathe in peace, I breathe out war inside. I breathe in strength, every tremble, every tide. I breathe in joy, let it rise above. Resting in the quiet now. Stronger, softer, learning how now. I'm dreaming of. To this endless, wordless ocean made of love. Breathe in all the scattered pieces. Breathe out every borrowed fear. Hands open to the quiet in your chest. Let the shaken part settle here. Peace in my body, strength in my bones, joy in the spaces I once called unknown, love in the center. Breathe in all the scattered pieces. Breathe out every borrowed fear. Hands open to the quiet in your chest. Let the shaken part settle here. Peace in my body, strength in my bones, joy in the spaces I once called unknown, love in the center, soft but so strong. I am